published 1733 EDT, the 14th of October 2017, updated 1921 EDT, the 14th of October 2017, sized as count in boxing as well as many aspects of life, and George Groves made it matter all over again to set up a potential London Football Stadium megafight against Chris Eubank Jr. in the new year. Groves followed Eubank's three-round demolition of a Turkish hardnut a week earlier by demolishing fellow Brit Jamie Cox inside 4 at Wembley Arena. It meant he kept his WBA World Super Middleweight title without undue commotion. Eubank will present a more difficult challenge, but for the moment size matters. George Groves raises his fist in celebration after retaining his WBA World Super Middleweight title. Groves barely broke into a sweat as he came through against Jamie Cox in 4 rounds of boxing. Groves knocked down Cox in the 4th round and the challenger was unable to get back to his feet. The gauntlets flung down in these World Series tournament quarterfinals will be picked up with a vengeance on January 20th. Groves v Eubank has been coming for years and it will arrive in the semi-finals with all gloves blazing. St. George heads for the collision, firmly believing that his physical stature as full-blown super middleweight world champion will prove decisive again. After disemboweling the fast, furious but reckless Cox with a sickening right-hander to the pit of the stomach, he greeted Eubank into the ring with this warning: "Jamie is a world-class light middleweight, but he was too small to take me. So is Chris. Eubank, like Cox, has come up a division for this tournament." Groves, like Eubank 7 nights before in Stuttgart, produced the concussive performance which smothered all appetite for a fight among the rival entities in the crowd. Groves will now face Chris Eubank Jr. in the semi-finals of the World Boxing Super Series in the new year. Eubank Jr. made his way into the ring and stood face-to-face with Groves after the fight on Saturday night. Cox, like Avni Yildirim in front of his fellow Turks, made the cavalry charges only to be picked off by wickedly accurate counter-punches. Like Eubank, Groves won every round in the course of delivering the coup de grace. Game, set, and the big match to come. The two Old England amateur team roommates had maintained respectful courtesies, laced with only the occasional barb, through the preamble. Groves had referred to the lesser-known Cox's professional career as being stagnant before he was granted this title shot out of the blue. Groves gestured that he was still number 1 in the WBA World Super Middleweight division. After winning the fight, Cox had approached the fight in a gung-ho fashion and it didn't pay off as he was sent down to the canvas. Groves walked away from Cox after knocking him down and looked in total control throughout the fight. Cox had inferred that Groves was more a thinking man's fighter than ring-savvy, saying "He's read a book, but he's not streetwise. I don't read books. I get ready to knock people out." Both have a goodly co-ratio on the records, and those expecting this to go the distance were in the minority. The anticipation of an explosive fight helped boost the attendance seemingly a tad above the expected 7,000, including a majority of London support for local boy Groves. The light show which accompanied the ring walks was spectacular, but the atmosphere was spared the brawling hostility of Stuttgart a week earlier when Eubank silenced a hall festering with rival immigrant gangs with his knockout quarterfinal performance. Groves took his chances well when he moved forward and ambushed Cox, who seemed unprepared to take his punches. Cox moving backwards was a sign for Groves to step in and hurry his opponent, who was clearly struggling. Cox was put on the back foot a number of times by the champion and did find it tough to rock his opponent at the first bell. A brass band struck up with a rendition of "When the Saints Go Marching In," and in Groves duly marched, rocking Cox with huge right and unleashing combinations which won the first round, even though his challenger fought back furiously at the end. It was a crowd-rousing opener. Cox, desperate for the early knockout, began the second with a frenzied assault, wailing away at Groves on the ropes. But when the cleaner, more damaging punches came, it was Groves who staggered him with lefts and rights. Referee Gray had to warn them to watch the heads. Cox was still all action as it went on, Groves landing them more cleanly. There were fights breaking out in the arena, but the one in the ring was about to come to a sudden end. It was a classic finish by Groves. Another lunge by Cox was cleverly blocked by the champion, who then planted vicious body shot deep into the stomach. A right hook helped Cox's journey to the canvas, but he was already as winded as punctured balloon as he fell and never looked remotely like beating the count. Groves walks out at the Wembley Arena ahead of his title defense against Cox on Saturday evening.